Hi, my name is Elle Billing. I am a chronically ill queer femme, and I'm tired. I'm here this episode and every episode to dig at the roots of our collective fatigue, explore ways to direct our care in compassionate and sustainable ways, and to harness creative expression to heal ourselves and to heal our world. Welcome to Hoorf, Radical Care in a Late Capitalist Hexscape. My guest for this episode is Erika Goveia. Erika is a 29-year-old poet and general arts and crafts enjoyer. She grew up in a fundamentalist Christian community in Indiana, but has since deconstructed and is now living in California with her husband and two stepkids. She does office work, attends an online poetry group semi-regularly, and is always looking for pretty crochet patterns to try. She has had a handful of poems published and sometimes posts her art on Instagram. Her art is about her experiences growing up. I'm excited to have Erika on the podcast today. Welcome to Hoorf. Hello, Erika. Welcome to Hoorf.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. We've exchanged a few emails, but yeah, this is the first time we're meeting.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. You know Ricki,
Mhm.
so which is how you came to be on Hoorf, but this is the first time that you and I are sitting down to talk. And so I'm really excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I am doing okay. It's a bright, sunny day out here in California. I
Mm,
really can't complain.
nice. It's actually a bright sunny day here in North Dakota too. The weather was the temp was in the 50s today. It's really nice, which means it's muddy and my dog is disgusting. I got home from after being gone all day and she was running around outside and I was like, "Oh, I have stuff to carry in. I can't let you in the house because you'll get mud all over the carpet." So I'm trying to get in the door and not let my dog in. And my dad thankfully was on the porch and he's trying to maneuver and help me out with the whole don't let the dog in situation because otherwise we end up with mud everywhere. We got it handled. And now she's back outside again. So as soon as
Oh my goodness.
I got her paws cleaned up and then she's like, "Oh, Papa's going to do yard work. I love yard work." And so she's out making a mess again.
Oh, what a sweetie. Yeah, the cycle's never ending when they're in and out.
Oh, I know. And the mud is so sloppy right now. It's her favorite
Ah.
thing. So, yeah, it's pretty gross. We go through a lot of baby wipes in the spring.
Oh, that's so smart. Do you keep them
Yeah.
by the door and her feet as she comes in?
So we have our rug and then her big pillow is right there. So we go door rug pillow and then I make her lay on her pillow and I wipe her paws with baby wipes.
Oh, nice.
But if I'm not standing there, if my mom lets her in or my dad lets her in, she goes straight for the beige carpet.
As you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my mom's like, "We have to get the carpet shampooer out." I'm like, "Well, let it dry. We'll vacuum it up. And we're not going to shampoo the carpet till spring's over because she's going to do it again." Like, really, let's think about this. It's going to happen again.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you have a system, you have it down, you know what to do.
Yeah. My house in Idaho, I didn't have any carpet. So then we just sweep it up. And then we moved here and it was like, "Oh, we have carpet. Okay. It's a pain, but we make it work." That's the long way of saying it's a nice day. It's also really gross. That's the downside. So, how have you received care this week, Erika?
Well, just last night I got home from work and I was very tired, and my husband Matt was making dinner. He was making all of dinner. And
Oh,
I went and took a shower and I went and sat on the couch for a bit and he said, "Hey, dinner's ready." And that was just
oh,
really nice.
I love that. That's really nice. What did he make?
He made steak and baked potatoes and veggies and bread slices. He did the whole thing.
Ooh, that's a very hearty Midwest dinner right there.
Yeah, definitely a treat for us.
Yeah, that's really nice. I love that he did that.
Yeah, he's very sweet. I love him.
I love when I'm cooked for or when I don't have to do all the food prep myself. Ricki actually gets here next week and then I don't have to cook for myself the whole time.
Aw.
Ricki does some of the food prep for me then, or a lot of it
Mm,
actually. Makes my coffee, and it's
yeah.
nice to have somebody who does that. So,
I love cooking, but there's something special about the meals he makes.
yeah. I used to love cooking. Now it's just sort of like this is a way I have to expend energy to feed myself. Although I've been managing my energy better lately, so like I can enjoy cooking a little bit more, and playing around with different flavors and things again, which is nice. But I've also been like really intensely painting in the studio, and so I haven't been wanting to spend my energy in the kitchen. I just want to be spending it painting.
Mm.
So it's nice when I can ask somebody else to do it for me.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So I just mentioned painting in my studio, but what does your creative practice look like? Like, what do you do? What is your approach or process to art or artistic endeavors look like?
Well, calling it a process is very generous, in my opinion. It's lots of like snippets of things from here and there, conversations with friends or family, just like
Mhm.
stuff that gets stuck in my head. Or I do a lot of my writing at work. Don't tell anyone. I make a lot of phone calls, and while I'm on hold, I'll just jot down a few things. And
Mhm.
then I have this very dwindling notepad where you can tear it off. And so now I have all these loose squares of paper in my work bag. And
Oh
every
yeah.
once in a while I do a purge, and that'll be my poetry. That'll be some of the art ideas that I've posted online.
Mhm.
Just very quickly put together things that sometimes work out.
I I work a part-time job in the evenings, and there's usually like an hour of dead time in between tasks, and that's I do writing then. I don't bring a sketchbook with me because I the lighting isn't great there. Like I intentionally, I don't use the fluorescent lights at work because they irritate my eyes so much.
Mm.
I have like a special green light that's gentle for my people who get migraine, but it's not good for sketching.
Mm.
Um, so usually what I do in that time is when I'm at work, I'm listening to audiobooks, so sort of feeding my soul. But I'll write or I'll answer work based business emails. I'll do podcast prep. So I try to use that work time for like other enjoyable stuff. Similar, like when you're on hold, you're writing or doodling or sketching. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get it.
that's neat.
And if I hear something in an audiobook that I'm like, "Oh," I use sticky notes to or my bullet journal to like write things down that I want to remember for later. And so I have sticky notes all over my journal and all over inside my journal. And yeah, I have to do the purge of my purse where I'm like, "Where did all my sticky notes go?" So yeah, I get the bag as a process. I totally get that. So what kind of art do you do? I guess.
Um, oh gosh, I used to take art classes when I was in college, and I would do these really big, like very detailed drawings
Hmm.
because that was the class work that we were assigned, and I really loved it. But now, since then, I've kind of gotten out of the practice and then dipped my toes back in, out
Hmm.
again, dipping my toes back in. So nowadays, it's looking a lot like sketches on those little squares of paper, and
Hmm.
then slightly larger sketches, and then I'll take a photo of it and email it to myself. And then
Yep.
in Microsoft Paint, I will make a very, I don't know, like kind of like when you were messing around with paint as a kid on the computer and you would just make stuff. It's kind of like that, except I'm a little more focused now, a little more like trying to do a thing.
Yeah, 90s kid art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, and I guess we'll get into this with like kind of the next question. Like the art of yours that I've seen is kind of that throwback to like processing stuff from when you grew up. So I think using Microsoft Paint to do the art of based on stuff from the 90s. I mean that makes sense to me. Like kind of a throwback medium to talk about what it was like to grow up in Indiana
Mm.
in the evangelical high control religious community.
Yeah, and it also gives me a little bit of an out because if it's more traditional art, I'm like, oh, I should be spending more time on this. I should devote more to this. It needs to be more detailed. When it's on the computer, I feel a little bit less pressure to stay in that same headspace where I'm drawing about the thing that was so upsetting. And so it gives me more of like an out for myself to take breaks.
Oh, that's a really good point too. So let's talk about growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we'd emailed about that. So like, you knew I was going to ask that. I didn't spring that on you. Can you tell? Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how you grew up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Midwest in Indiana. I just happened to be born into a family that was in a church that has been there for generations. They split off from the Mennonites soon after coming over from Germany in, I believe, the 1800s. But my family had been in that church for 7 generations.
Oh wow.
And so we were there, we were in it. Um, my grandfather had gotten a divorce when my dad was little. And so there was a little bit of like a break from the church at that point. But then my father, when he became a young man, he rejoined and married my mom and
Hmm.
started their family that way.
Okay.
And yeah, I was raised in the church, full believer. I was very into it. I loved the church. They were my family. I didn't always feel welcome. There was something like me and my siblings have talked about this at length, at least me and my sisters. We just always felt a little bit separate, a little bit not quite as accepted as other families. I think
Hmm.
maybe because of that divorce, because they're very anti divorce.
Hmm.
They believe that you should work it out, that you should stay in it, that kind of thing. And that's just really conjecture. I don't really know. Like looking back, like with what I know now, it might have just been because we were neurodivergent.
Yeah. Right. And you just feel different than the people around you,
Mhm.
like you aren't fitting in. Yep.
Yeah. And so I got baptized in the church, became a member, all of that. And throughout college, started deconstructing a bit. And then by the end of college, I was like, oh, oh no, this is not for me. This is not
Mhm.
it. I don't think I have a future here. Met Matt online soon after that, my husband, my
Mhm.
partner. Ended up marrying him and moving out here to California where he lived with his kids.
Okay. Just for clarity,
Mhm.
because for people who may not be familiar with different sects of Christianity, like the loudest, I think, voice. 'Cause I grew up Lutheran, and I didn't really encounter any like evangelicalism until I went
Mhm.
to college, and then I was like, oh, okay. Interesting, because I grew up in a town that basically had mainline denominations,
Mhm.
Catholics and Lutherans and Methodists. And granted, I was a little weirdly sheltered, not sheltered, but like I was naive about the world as a
Mhm.
kid. So for people who are not necessarily part of the language and culture of Christianity, there's a lot of different types of Christianity. The ones who get the most
Mhm.
attention tend to be, especially right now, tend to be the more conservative fundamentalist evangelical types. Those are the ones who are sort of making a lot of noise right now in politics. Um, and there is everything from that to like more progressive groups of Christians. Where on that, and then there's like mainline churches fall somewhere in between. Where on that continuum was the church that you grew up in? Were they more towards the conservative side?
Definitely. They would consider themselves conservative, evangelical.
Okay.
They're a little bit closer to like the Baptist
Okay.
churches
Okay.
in general. They had split off from like the Mennonites early enough that they kind of became more a much more progressive version. And
Okay.
so you kept some of the kind of high control. I don't there's probably a better way to phrase that, but some of the high
Hmm.
control aspects of Mennonitism and the Amish faith where this is your family, this is your church. These are the people that you are growing up with, kind of more isolated, where like outsiders, they don't know us, they don't entirely get us. Look at us, we're devout and they don't understand that. So stay within our circle. You'll be
Hmm.
safe here. You have to marry members if you're a member. If
Hmm.
you want to marry a non member, they have to join or you have to leave.
Got it.
So I ended up having to remove my membership from the church.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, just things like that. Like there were no like horses and buggies or anything like
Oh,
that. We were
right, right.
very modernly.
I wasn't expecting that. I was more like as far as like culturally, and I guess horses and buggies is culturally. I meant more in terms of like theology, like and
Mhm.
interacting with the world, like more of the conservative versus the more progressive, or doctrine, I guess, is
Mhm.
maybe the word I'm thinking of. But
Yeah. It kind of varied a lot from family to family too. Like
yeah.
some parents would say, "Oh, we don't have any television in our house." And for us, is like we had a television, we would watch some things. We had like kind of like arranged depending on how my parents felt about it.
Hmm.
Like we'd watch a lot of Veggie Tales, things like
Okay.
that. I wasn't allowed to watch Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm still a little bit salty about that because I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I also loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, when I was like 6 years old, when my mom asked me where I wanted to go on vacation, just in conversation, I said I wanted to go to New York and like explore the sewer. And I was like dead serious. I was dead serious. And she's like, no,
Oh,
that's not a
that's
thing. I'm like,
amazing that you wanted to do that.
and I'm like, why not? That's where the Ninja Turtles live. They're not real.
Hey, sanitation workers get to do it, so should I.
Yeah, like, come on. It sounds so cool. No, actually, it sounds really gross, and I'm scared of rats.
Oh,
That's a
man.
good reason not to go.
Ooh, another thing about my family is that, well, and the church I grew up in, is that they're very like homeschooler friendly and
Mhm.
quiverful movement family. Are you familiar with the quiverful movement?
Yes, yes. I
Yeah.
have some friends who grew up in that movement, and their
Mhm.
family has also sort of come out of that movement. Their family is still in the church, but not in that part of the church.
Yeah, it's very traditional.
Mhm.
Men and women have their roles. Children are kind of seen, not heard, that kind of deal. And they're also expected to help with their many brothers and sisters. They kind of take care of each other and are
Yep.
parentified in that way. Myself have 7 brothers and
Yeah.
sisters.
There's quite a bit of that in Idaho, actually.
Mhm.
And that I lived there for a number of years, and that's actually where I kinda got to understand it a little bit. Okay. So, was there anything in particular that led to you deconstructing?
Yeah. I was kind of always depressed as a kid because of that feeling of not fitting in.
Mhm.
And because we were homeschooled, your only friends were church friends or homeschool group friends that you would see
Mhm.
once a week or once a month. And so it's just you and your siblings and your parents. For me, it was mostly my mom because my dad worked, stay at home
Mhm.
mom, raising us, homeschooling us. And I don't think she enjoyed it very much. Like, no shade on my mom. That is a lot of work. That is so much work. I cannot fathom the amount
Mhm.
of work that she had to do. But it also led to being kind of stuck in an environment with an adult who's taking care of so many other people, and they're not having a good time. They are very stressed, and that comes back on you. And so then
Mhm.
if they are mad at you in a parental way, that bleeds over into your school life because you're still dealing with the same person like 5
Mhm.
minutes later. And if you're not doing well on your schoolwork, your mom's going to be mad at you because she knows immediately. Just that
Yeah.
kind of thing where it becomes a bit of a pressure cooker
Mhm.
because you're isolated, she's isolated, and it just, I don't know, like it's a special mixture, and I don't
Mhm.
recommend it.
Yeah. So sort of just having that, like, depression and isolation
Mhm.
was sort of a foundation to want to deconstruct, like, wanting
Oh yeah, you
more.
had asked me
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah. So, like, that you already had sort of that dissatisfaction when you went to college, like, you wanted something more?
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I can hear the other voice in my head being like, "Oh, well, it sounds like you weren't really a Christian if you were depressed," because that was very much something that was touted at the time.
That was something I encountered when I went to college.
Oh,
Like, I was depressed from junior high on, and I started finally
mhm,
taking antidepressants my senior year of high school, and they for sure saved me. And then I got to college, and that's, like I said, that's when I first met my first, like, evangelical type Christians,
mhm.
and someone told me, "You're sinning every time you take your antidepressants." And I was like, "Excuse me?"
Wow.
I was like, "Exactly where does it say that in the Bible?"
That
Like,
is
I couldn't.
so rude.
Yeah, it was super rude, and I was like, "I don't wanna hang out with you anymore."
Oh my gosh, that was another thing. We didn't believe in mental health.
Yeah.
People who had depression and anxiety were either lying about it or they just didn't have good enough faith. They were letting the devil in. And the I'm going to be a little bit sassy and say that that particular church, it's called the Apostolic Christian Church. Um, they are very conveniently about 10 to 20 to 50 years behind on cultural things purposely, according to what suits them.
Mm-hmm.
So actually recently, within the last handful of years, they're like, oh, you can start wearing wedding rings because there was no jewelry. And so people
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't wear wedding rings either because there was a thing where it's like, oh, it'll encourage envy among people. We don't want comparisons, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now in the last 5 years, they're like, well, actually, people are starting to think that we're trying to cheat on our spouses because we're not wearing wedding rings. So let's go ahead and do that, you guys. And
Okay.
just as like it just became more and more clear to me growing up that it was more about social pressures and like what suited the adults as to like what got changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so adaptations were put forward as being the most holy practice when really it's more about what suits us at the time, which is
Mm-hmm.
fine, which is to be expected, but maybe don't wait until after it's hurt so many people,
Mm.
and maybe don't be a science denier. Maybe like listen to scientists. That would be lovely. Clinical psychologists are not the devil. They
Yeah.
are here to help. They're not here to
Yeah.
steal your children and take them into a dungeon to play D&D or something.
Yeah. So have you held on to anything from your spiritual background?
Um, I've actually been, that's the thing I've been parsing through the most recently. I think something that my parents really tried to instill in us is look for the people who don't have friends. Look for the
Mm.
people who could use a friend or who could use someone to stand up for them and try to be their friends. Especially if you don't have friends, the way to remedy that is to find someone who needs a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that did not work for middle school Erika because everyone else already had friends. If my friends were
Oh
available that
man,
day, I was out of luck. That's fine. That's fine.
the troubles of the neurodivergent middle schoolers.
Yeah, exactly. But as an adult, I feel like having that in the back of my head has helped me make some of the most unlikely friendships. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, in college, um, Ricki obviously had friends, but they were also like, oh, this person is different. They look a bit alternative. What's their deal? Maybe I can be
Mm-hmm.
friends with them. And that's
Yeah.
how we met in poetry class. They were just a really cool person. I
Yeah.
loved getting to know them. And they actually really like changed my life because I had never
Yeah. She's
really
great.
become friends with
Yeah.
someone alternative in that way. And I flubbing my terms probably a little bit here because I'm like very nervous about talking.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, just like knowing someone who is living their life in a way that was very different from mine, and they are a good person. They're just obviously a good person, and
Mm-hmm.
they're fine. The devil does not have a hold on their life. They're out
Mm-hmm.
here living. They have not been smitten by the Lord. They are
Mm-hmm.
obviously a joy to have around. They're obviously
Mm-hmm.
doing good in the world. How can someone being so good among a world of a bunch of people who just don't care in general? Maybe I think that's a glum way to look at the world in general, but to see someone be so good, how am I going to look at them and say like, oh yeah, you're going to hell because you don't subscribe to these 5 things?
Yeah.
How am I going to look at all the other wonderful people out there and be like, yeah, you just didn't make the cut? Like, Uncle George or whatever, who is kind of weird and creepy to me, he's in the church. He's fine. He's going to heaven, even though he said some really rude shit to me and my sisters over the last few decades. He's fine, but this person over here is nothing but a light of beam of hope. Nah, kick him out. That just didn't sit right.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. So your artwork, how does that help you process some of like the religious trauma that you still have from growing up the way you did?
Um, gosh, I think it allows me, it's kind of an extension of finally processing and allowing myself to cry about things if I need to yell and scream about things if I need to, because we were expected to be so buttoned up and to be fine. We were just expected to be fine with very little emotional help.
Mhm.
I think, gosh, the art process is me reaching out to myself to process those things, and maybe by sending it into the world to like the select few people that I show it to also reach out to them and be like, hey, human experience, am I right? What a wild time.
Mhm. Yeah, the first I don't remember which one I saw first, but Ricki had sent me one of your Instagram posts of one of your art little paint art pieces, and I say little not to, like, diminish it, but it was
They're
smallish.
tiny. They're
Yeah.
cute.
And, like, the simplicity of how you create them and make them, like, I think helps them pack a punch for what they're about. Because it was like it's a way of going like, "Hey, isn't this effed up?" This thing like
Thank you. That is my goal.
yeah, it's like, isn't it weird how we say this to kids? And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's so messed up. And I wish I could remember which one it was, and I probably should have pulled up Instagram before we started, but I haven't had my nap today, so I didn't think of it until just now.
It's all good.
But it's one of those things, like you said, like reaching out to like your younger self or other people who grew up the same way to go, yeah, like this was messed up. Like adults said this to children, like some really weird and terrible shit gets said to
Yeah.
kids in the name of like religion. And that's we carry that with us, and then we have to hopefully we process it at some point.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
is your poetry about the same type of thing, or do you write poetry about something else completely?
It's very much the same thing. I do branch out a little bit more in my poetry and like try to write about different topics, but it very often comes back um, to writing about my experiences growing up,
Mhm.
difficulties I'm facing now, especially because I do still carry a lot of those struggles that I had as a kid
Mhm.
forward. Like, no matter how much I work on them, I still carry it as part of me. And how I move through the world now, having tried to leave that behind, is very much a focus within that.
Yeah. I mean, those are like formative wounds. They kind of they
Mhm.
stick with us for a while. I think I've said this on uh, even if I haven't said it on the podcast, I've said it when talking about my art to other people is I did write a poem one time where the first line was, "All my poems are about dirt and my mother."
Mm.
Even my poems about my dad, which are about her by virtue of her exclusion.
Mm.
And so much of my artwork, even when I don't mean it to be about my mom, is still about my mom. Ricki and I are releasing the failure experiment later this month, and I didn't know it was gonna be a bunch like, have a bunch of mother stuff in it, but what do you know? Ricki has mother wounds too. I mean, you probably are aware of this. And there's several poems in Ricki's book about like her mother specifically, but also the idea of the mother. And my collection last year ended up being very much about mothers and daughters. And so now this year I'm like, I'm going to do artwork based on Ricki's book. And then I read the book and I'm like, damn it. There's a whole bunch of mother symbolism. I guess I'm still making artwork about my mom.
Oh, we're sharing the brain stuff.
It's like I can't get away from it. I mean, I also live with my mom and my dad, and I take care of my mom. And it's like, I'm not gonna get away from it. Like, this is my life. But it's just one of those things where, like, it doesn't matter what medium or discipline I'm working in. Like, this is the wound. Like,
Mhm.
this is it formed me.
I actually have a book. I think don't know if you've mentioned it before on your show. It's Discovering the Inner Mother, A Guide to Healing the Mother Wound by Bethany Webster.
No, I
It's
that's going
good.
in the show notes, and it'll go on my bookshop
It's
front.
really
But I have a
good.
bookshop.org store page under Ellen Wink. I'll put that in there too, so people can find it. But
I
and
will
I'll
send you a
probably
picture of it.
yeah, and I'll probably add it to my own wish list, or at least like my see if the library has an audiobook of it. It's just like the thing. I mean, and some of that comes from how she grew up and the way she was raised in the church too. Like, 'cause she grew up in a church where you didn't look to the side, you just looked straight ahead,
Mhm.
don't smile, don't laugh. And
Wow.
when she was divorcing her first husband, the church she was in, like, didn't notice or care that she was
Oh,
being abused. Like, and that affects you.
yeah. To not be seen,
Mhm.
to not be seen when you need to be seen the most, that's so
Yeah.
hurtful.
Yeah. So, I know I know my own answer to this question. But, so does the current political situation in the US reactivate any of the church trauma and junk for you?
Oh, yeah, feeling a little feral out here.
Yeah.
I I feel spoiled living in California, but you can't escape it out here either. I saw a truck the other week that was just plastered with bumper stickers. One of them said something like save something, kill a Democrat or liberal. Something about Al Qaeda. Thanks Biden for Al Qaeda. Like just like all kinds of like weird off the wall QAnon
Yeah.
stuff. I
Yeah.
saw another one that said Q Army on a different car. It's just so odd to see
Yeah.
out in the wild, but I do feel extremely blessed to have had the opportunity to move away from my hometown,
Mhm.
especially before COVID hit, before things really intensified politically. Something I wanted to say earlier about the church that I'm all over the place. I know.
I am not a
Um,
linear thinker. You're fine.
one of the things that upset me and helped in my deconstruction is that some of the things that they adopted for convenience more than for genuine spiritual purposes was politics.
Mhm.
And after I left, the further and further I got away from it, looking back, the more I could see how politically motivated they were.
Mhm.
Um, like, for instance, very anti abortion.
Mhm.
And so, gosh, my parents took us to a Tea Party protest one time as children. Like, I'm not going to be able to think of any good
Mhm.
examples right now, but they're still pro Trump
Yeah, I
after these years.
yeah, and I guess the way I grew up in the church, like, I always felt like the gospel was political, but it was
Mhm.
like a politics of care, not a politics
Yeah.
of power.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't think of that, like, when I was a kid. I didn't have the language for it. But, like, looking back on the way that, like, I can
Yeah.
say, "Oh," because like, the church my parents go to, my dad has mentioned several times that, like, their vision and mission statement says, "Everyone welcome, no," like, and they added the words, "no exceptions," and they're the only church in town that says that.
Wow.
Because there's 3 Lutheran churches in the community, and the one my parents go to is the only one that accepts LGBTQ people,
Mm.
like, and, like, will perform same gender marriages, and for a while they had one of the interim pastors was a gay man, and my dad is, like, happy that that's our church,
Wow.
and there was another church that was a member of the same synod, and when it came down to the LGBT issue, that church broke away from the synod and, like, left. And our church
Mm.
stayed. So, like, that's kinda how I grew up. I mean, there were growing pains for sure. I'm not saying it's all been sunshine and rainbows. I was a queer kid in the '90s in North Dakota. But, as far as, like, I also kinda lucked out because the way that most of the people around me viewed the politics side of it was, like, a politics of, like, taking care of other people as opposed to, like, having control over them.
Yes. Yes, the paternalism is very
Yeah,
strong.
and the
If you're not part of us, you don't know what's right for you,
mhm.
and you need to join us in order to be okay.
So, you have 2 stepchildren?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So how I mean, obviously, you parent them differently than you were parented. How do you approach co-parenting your stepchildren differently than how, like, you were parented? How does that look?
You know what? It's been a weird, rough process, but I feel like we are finally stepping into what works for us.
Mhm,
And that's been the biggest thing is just giving myself and all of us giving, like, as a family, giving ourselves permission to do what works for us instead
mhm,
of what's prescribed as the best way to be. I think if nothing else, that's been the biggest realization of my life is that if you're not hurting anyone, you can just do what works for you. You don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to look a certain way in order to be valid as a human being,
mhm.
in order to have a life that's worth living. We don't have to eat at the dining table if sitting on the floor in the living room works better for us while we're eating. Um, I
Yeah.
don't have to have the house perfectly cleaned. My mother isn't going to come out of nowhere and slap my hand for not wiping down the baseboards. I can be a bit of a mess and still be worth loving
Yeah.
and still be a good representation of what a human being can be.
Mhm,
I don't have to have it all together and I don't have to keep my problems to myself. And I can hear the little voice in my head going again, like, we never told you you had to keep it all to yourself. It's like, well, you didn't listen very well when I had my problems. You were
yeah.
fine listening to certain problems. You were absolutely fine if I wanted to come forward and confess sin or if I wanted advice about something. But if you're not there for me when I say, hey, this isn't working for me, this is actually making me feel really bad. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with that particular person. I'm not comfortable with this situation. The answer is, well, you need to just get through it because this is inconvenient for us that you are not feeling it right now.
Mhm,
And gosh, my sisters and I had a conversation with my mom one day. We all met up together in San Diego and something broke. One of my sisters was getting a little bit criticized, and my other sister, but criticized by my mom, and my other sister joined in, and something just snapped, and I was like, "No, fuck you. We don't have to do this."
mhm.
Do you have any idea how much not being heard and being told that we absolutely have to be this certain way has hurt us? Do you have any idea how much it's hurt us? Do you even care?
Mhm.
Like the whole purity culture thing, big
Yes.
into that, being
Yeah.
told that the example we were given is, oh, your heart is like an apple, and every time you have sex with someone, a slice gets taken out of it, and then you're just this apple slices being held together. Like I don't know, just like all the ways that you're told that you're garbage if you don't live your life exactly the
Mhm,
way they want you to.
mhm,
If you step out of line, I'm sorry, you're just trash. You're like a band-aid, we're gonna rip you off and throw you out. And that was kind of my experience when I left. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, we love you so much. We hope you'll come back. We want you to visit. We hope you'll come back to the church." And then in a lot of other ways, it was like, kind of don't care. You're kind of just garbage now. I don't really care. Like, oh my gosh, one of my uncles and one of his friends was really shitty to me on Facebook when I was like, actually, electric cars don't do the bad environmental thing as much as what you're saying. Just like, I don't know, just random weird stuff is such a hairpin trigger for just absolute, like, oh, okay, you're not part of us anymore.
mhm.
And that's a very long, circuitous way of not even answering your question, I don't think.
No, I think you got to it, like, you're able to recognize the ways that you were harmed by ways that you were raised and, like, break that cycle.
Yes, thank you. That's the point of this. Oh, yeah, I had a point in there. Yeah, so just like, gosh, it was really hard at first because I had all these ideas about what a parent was supposed to be
Mhm.
and what things were supposed to look like, and letting go of that was hard because I wanted to do well. I really did. I really wanted to be a good Christian in that
Mhm.
church in the way that I was supposed to, and it just was killing me. I think if I had stayed, I might not be alive today. I don't know.
I understand that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I just could not see a future there where I was well and alive, like, there was just no room for me.
Mhm.
And being a stepmom really made me confront that more than I think just moving out here and being married to someone without kids would have, because it's like, "Oh, what is the effect I'm having on other people by having these attitudes? What am I bringing into the world, and is it
Mhm.
actually constructive?"
Yeah. My sister and I have a lot of conversations about breaking the cycle
Mhm.
and things like that because she also has 2 stepchildren, and, like, she wasn't going to be a parent, and then she fell in love with a guy with 2 kids, and she fell in love with his kids, and she's like, "Well, of course I'm gonna marry him, and I'm marrying the whole family," and she's really good at it.
Aw.
Um, and yeah, we have a lot of those conversations, and I sometimes feel like I'm having the opportunity to reparent my mom in a way, right? And
Mm.
but I'm reparenting myself more, right? In the relationship of taking care of my mom. And so we have these conversations all the time, and it's hard, but like
Yeah.
it's healing to be able to like make those choices differently than how they were made for us. That's
Yes.
super important. So, last question. What is one true thing that you have learned from your creative practice?
Let me see what I wrote down because I can't remember now. I think I read like what I said earlier. Oh, I did write something. It's that there are good, loving people out there who won't judge you for being a mess. People who
Mhm.
create and bring joy, who are able to sit with dark emotions and come out the other side. And I have a quote from Mary Oliver: "Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things." From her poem Wild Geese.
That's a great poem.
And just, it doesn't matter what people's opinions of me are. What matters is, am I doing a good job as a person in the world? Are not only my intentions good, but are the effects of my actions good?
Mhm.
And am I satisfied with who I am and what I'm doing? And then that's it. Anything beyond that is just salesmanship or bullshit. And I probably have a bit more bullshit in me to weed out, but I am so happy and so grateful for the life I have now because I got to choose it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I really appreciate our conversation today.
Thank you.
This was good.
This was really good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Hoorf. To get the complete show notes and all the links mentioned on today's episode, or to get a full transcript of the episode, visit hoorfpodcast.com. Join the blessed herd of St. Winkus. By signing up for our newsletter, you can get Hoorf episodes delivered directly to your inbox. What's more, you get invitations to our monthly Coffee and Biscuits Chat, where you get to hang out with Ricki and Elle, talk about the show, and connect on the topics that mean the most to you. You can sign up for that at hoorfpodcast.com. If you become a patron for only $3 a month, you can support the creation of this podcast, help pay my editor, and join a community of caregivers out here just doing our best. Thank you again for joining me, Elle Billing, the chronically ill queer femme who is very tired, on this episode of Hoorf. Until next time, be excellent to each other. Hoorf is hosted by Elle Billing at Elle and Wink. Audio editing by Ricky Cummings at Ricky Poo. Music composed by Ricky Cummings. Hoorf is a production of Elle and Wink Art Studio LLC, all rights reserved. Hoorf can be found on all social media platforms at Hoorf Podcast, at HOORF Podcast. I was dead serious, and she's like, "No."